Welcome back for another episode of Sunday SoulDay, fueling your mind, body, and soul with soulful conversations and life-changing insights. Are you living from survival mode or soul alignment? I sit down with Rebecca Pilger, keynote speaker, podcast host of Soul Desires, and a rising voice in spiritual transformation and feminine energetics. Rebecca's journey is nothing short of powerful, from overcoming a narcissistic relationship and complex PTSD to healing and embodying a new paradigm of success, the divine feminine energy. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome to Sunday SoulDay, Rebecca.
Hi, Damesha. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I know, likewise. Well, thank you for coming on. And I know we had such a beautiful conversation initially, and I was excited to get you in front of the audience and kind of share your journey because you've had such an interesting journey. I know we've talked in detail about it, so can't wait to share a little bit more here and also what you're working on.
Thank you. Oh, you're so sweet. I love being in your energy. You're just amazing.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. And I wanted to just start with your healing journey. Like, what prompted you to even start your journey? And how did that first step towards reclaiming your truth begin for you?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, yes, you're right. You can color this from so many different pinpoints because it's a huge thing. For me, I started my healing journey because I broke up from a narcissistic relationship after 12 years. It took me really 12 years. So I felt like it was a repetitive pattern I saw within myself. And I always have the thinking if something happens to you over and over again, it must be you. Because I was the only thing which was consistent in all those relationships. Obviously, the narcissist was always there as well. It was always a narcissist, a toxic masculine I attracted. So if you attract something, you must be a magnet towards it. And this is where I thought, it's me. I need to heal. So this was actually my kickstart in my healing journey. It sounds so simple. It took me years because I feel like you get nudged. There's a red flag. There is something you recognize. And I always say, like, it's spirit sending you little breadcrumbs. And I got nudged and I didn't want to listen. So one day my life broke apart and I had to listen. And so this is how my healing journey actually started by starting from nothing. I lost overnight my home, my relationship, my bank account was emptied. He took my business, he took my reputation, he took everything. I didn't have friends, I didn't have nothing. I had a car and my dog, and this is just because I almost just took off. While he was at the gym, I just took off. So basically, I had nothing. And it sounds so horrible right now, but it's actually the best situation this would could happen for me because I didn't want to listen. And my life needed to burn down. So I had to start over from the ashes because otherwise, there's this saying when you go to the desert island, burn the boats. For me, it was always like, I have the boats there. I can go back. But this is what happened. I needed to start from scratch. So my boats were burned and it wasn't me. It was just burnt and I couldn't go anywhere else. I had to start fresh. And that's actually a beautiful gift.
That's the misconception when people think they're going on their healing journey. They think it's kind of like not necessarily an overnight thing, but they think it's this quick process that, something that they can do. And it's not, it's you're healed. First of all, we're going to be on our healing journey forever.
Yeah.
Now whether or not you heal, from a particular situation, like you might come through that, right? But there's going to be more situations to heal through. So you're always going to be on your healing journey. I want to really talk about where you were in that 12-year relationship because a lot of times, you hear the saying where people are like, how do you stay for 12 years in a narcissistic situation that isn't healthy for you? Like, how does that happen? Like, you seem like such a strong girl. You seem like, like you have it together. Like, how do you stay in a situation that's not healthy for you?
Oh, this is so sweet that you think I have it together. It's not. This is the beautiful thing. Even though you moved on, no matter where you are in your life, you never have it entirely figured out. Back then, I wasn't even close to the person I am right now. I was an entire different person. It was a not overnight thing. People think like, oh, I slipped into a narcissistic relationship and then I changed. No, it's something which happens over and over again. And it's really subtle. It's the slight, subtle changes. For me, in my situation, I was used to this from my parents because my father is really narcissistic and my mom has strong narcissistic tendencies. They're really counterparts because they are different kinds of narcissists, and yes, there are different kinds. So i I was primed basically. People say like, how can you feel so that it's normal? It's because I was used to this. I thought this is how love is. I thought this is how life is. So from this situation, I slipped into toxic relationships over and over again. And it's with every relationship, they break a little bit more of your self worth apart, a little bit more of your self love, to the point where I was having nothing. I didn't have anything. And it was really to the situation that he cheated on me multiple times and made me feel bad for this. And I begged him to forgive me. This deep, I was so lost. And I didn't feel like I was in survival mode back then. I didn't know. I thought this is life. I've never experienced anything than this. So for me, this feeling of digestion issues, bloating, my body having all those signs, my mental situation having this sign, this numbness, this pushing through, this hustle, it was normal to me. I thought this is how it is. I thought it's okay or normal when you lose your hair, when stressful situations appear. It's normal that your body just throws up all the time because it can't handle stress anymore. And the worst part was actually right now that I thought I was strong. I thought, wow, I can handle this amount of stress. Look at me. Why is everybody else crumbling? And I can still hold it together. And the probably worst part is everybody around me didn't even know a slightest thing. They really truly thought I was a top of the world. I had a boyfriend. Everybody thought he's amazing. Yes, he was really self-centered, but everybody thought he's amazing. They were really envying for this relationship. But the truth is, and this is something when you're really good and you're really deep in survival mode, you have this kind of mechanism that you just function, that you can really pretend you're the best actor. People think you deserve an Oscar for what you do. And I feel like this is a survival mechanism in its own because you subconsciously know something is wrong, but you don't want the world to know. And probably for 34 years, I didn't know who I was. Because if you would have asked me, what's your favorite meal, I would have said it's steak. I don't even eat meat. It was his favorite food. And when I got through this, the worst part is when you start healing, your world crumbles because you feel like it's worse than it was before. I begged the universe to go back. I said, in days where it was really bad, please, everything is better than what I'm experiencing right now because I'm broke, I'm homeless, I have nothing, I don't know where to go, I'm lost, I'm in the first time in my life I feel and I don't want to feel. And this is something nobody talks about. It's the moments where you lay on your kitchen floor and you're just crying. You think, I want to take my life because I can't handle it anymore. But at the same time, all those survival mode months, years, They primed you. You're resilient. You're not taking your life because you think it can't end like this. I'm stronger than this. I'm pushing through. I will find a way. It's going to happen for me because something deep inside of you primed you. It was your soul, spirit who's telling you, keep going, push through. It's just a phase. And once you stand up from the kitchen floor, you feel really ashamed that you thought like this. But it's a process. And this is what narcissistic abuse does to you. It's sending you on this roller coaster to break you so much. But the beautiful part is, from an entire broken person, you can become the person you were meant to be. You have a soil, a burnt soil, and you can be the phoenix. And this is beautiful. It's, you're not using all the old stuff, all those, you're not picking these pieces back up and glue them together. You start fresh. And that's something nobody can take from you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for taking us through that. And you said something, I really want to hone in on that. With narcissism, it's, whether it's in a parental relationship or, an intimate relationship or even a friendship, it is really to confuse you and to confuse you over time so that you step further and further away from yourself. And so I find that you have a lot of these mini betrayals to yourself to keep the peace. And when you've experienced this, in your home growing up, and then later, that's what you attract, in relationships because it feels like home to you. It feels safe. It feels, normal. And so you don't even recognize that it's happening because it's happening so subtly in the beginning. And it's almost like they are building up your tolerance to be even more disrespectful over time.
Yeah.
But by the time they're blatantly disrespectful and, start discarding you and treating you really terribly, your self-love and self-worth are so low.
Yeah.
And so you stay. And so that's
It
what it
becomes,
sounds like to me, like what, you kind of experienced.
yeah, it's so true. Thank you for putting this in words because it's really like this. They have a mechanism. They start from love bombing you. You
Yep.
feel so cherished, and then they slowly break it away. They first attack your strength, your weaknesses, because you already know you're not good in this. So you get comfortable with this and you give in. And then they, for me at least, it was like this. And then they attacked my strength to make me even weaker. And from there on, it got, every time I felt like now I can't do it anymore. They have this really sensitive feeling towards this because narcissists now, okay, there we getting to this point where she's maybe considering to leave. And then they start love bombing you again.
It's a cycle of abuse.
Yes.
And so, like, when you look
Narcissists,
at the narcissistic cycle of abuse, it involves love bombing over and over and over to keep you
yes.
hooked.
And this backleashing, it tells you, your nervous system, I need to be in hypervigilant because I
Yeah.
don't know. But you get addicted to this. You get really addicted because your nervous system got programmed that this is love. So, what happens to a lot of victims once they split and they don't heal themselves? They think that they need to find another narcissist because they need this control, they need this manipulation, they need this roller coaster emotions. So they feel this is love. If there is somebody really nice to them, they think this person is boring and something is weird, they don't love me. It's really this addiction. You got really brainwashed, primed. Your nervous system learned this, but you can get out of this. And right now, I'm at this point where I can see a narcissist from far away. I see right away when they do something. I'm like, yes, this is gaslighting. This is manipulation. This is control. I can see it right away. And everybody can do this. I can do this, so everybody can. It's just you need to get out of this situation, heal yourself. And through healing, you start to recognize this. Your healing journey pushes you through this. And it's like wearing glasses. All of a sudden, they're clean. You can see it. All of a sudden, your blindfold falls off and you feel and see the patterns. This is what happens when you heal. But there's a transitioning phase. And this is something which was for me really, because you said earlier, it's you step out of the situation and then healing is not overnight.
No, and it
It's,
gives you a perspective, right, that you didn't have when you're in it. It's like being in a
yeah,
pool. We use the glasses analogy, but it's like being in a pool. Jumping into a pool, you can't see, right?
yeah,
So you can't, and even if you're
sure.
in the pool, you can't fully see like all the areas of the pool. But once you step out of the pool, you have a completely different perspective. So you need to step out of the relationship in order to have a new perspective, not just to place blame, because I think that's also, something that we're really great at doing. It's so much easier to place the blame on the other person, but you also have to take ownership too. And so it takes two to tangle, because I actually, you said something earlier about attracting that. I
Yeah,
believe that light actually attracts both light and dark. And so
yes,
it's not necessarily you being attractive, like you attracting that, because you're going to attract a lot of things, but it's what you actually considered and tolerated. That's
yeah.
that tells you exactly where you are in your life. And so like once you step out of that, then you're able to start really looking at like, wow, look at what I accepted. Look at what I called love. But you have to get really brutally honest with yourself first. And I think that's a huge part of the healing journey, is starting with that level of honesty, you know, and then allowing yourself to go through the full grief process, all the steps of the grief process, because you get sad, you get angry, you get, and then you get to a place where you're finally like accepting it, and that's where forgiveness of not just yourself, but also the other person comes in, and really getting to a place of forgiveness so you can move forward. And the forgiveness isn't for them, it's really for you, so you don't hold on to that energy. And so I want to talk about that kind of shift from survival mode to what most people call thriving mode, but you call soul desire. I want to talk a little bit about that, because you often speak, on your podcast, like, you're helping high achievers and empaths move out of that survival mode into their kind of soul desire. Like, what does that transition look like? And what role did your own experience with burnout and trauma kind of play in that, shaping that perspective?
It's actually all connected. When I started to get out of the survival mode, I recognized that I used the same patterns I used to use before. I was always reusing, especially my business. I was thinking, I need to start something. I remember I was sitting on the couch and I watched my mom's dog. I was actually sitting in front of the couch and I was thinking, okay, universe, I'm really with my back to the wall. I need your help. What am I going to do? Because I don't know. So I got this vision all of a sudden, even though I didn't know, I got this vision and I was like, okay, we're getting through this. We're not doing what I saw because I don't trust this. I don't think this is me. This could be me. This was my nervous system still pulling me back. But we are going towards something and we just take a route I feel comfortable with. So I got into coaching and I was like, okay, we start my business and I'm just reapplying everything I had from my 16 years of self-employment. I had by that time 4 businesses. This is my 5th now. So I was like, we just reapply. It always worked and we made this businesses big. So just copy paste. And then I hit a wall and I was like, why is it not working? Why am I just punching against the wall? And I was like, I'm not hustling enough. So I did more and more and more. And I got really burned out. I had by that time 18, 20-hour days. And I felt like I need to 7 days a week. I just pushed because I was used to this. I was used to push until I realized this doesn't work. It's not working for me. And one day I just was in bed and it was like spirit placed a thought in my head and he was like, wait a minute, I'm in survival mode. So I was thinking, this doesn't work for me. What shifted in between? And I was like, okay, now I see it. The old way doesn't work because I'm not the old person anymore. So I realized, new person, new way. And from there on, I recognized this masculine kind of way, how it works. It doesn't resonate with me. There are more ways to business than just one. And this is unfortunate. Our society tells us, you want to do business, this is the way. And it's always have a marketing plan, have a business plan, have this plan, and plan all this scheduling, planning. It's masculine energy. But I resonate in my deep feminine energy. So it doesn't work for me. My brain can't wrap around this. And my body is telling me, oh no, plan. Doesn't really work for me. So I exhaust myself. I get so caught up in this that I'm actually just getting back into survival mode. And this was the moment when I realized there are different ways. You can have a soul-led, soul-aligned business, and it can thrive, but it needs to come from within. And it's not by pushing, forcing. It's in cyclical ways. It doesn't have to look like everybody else's business because I'm not looking like everybody else. I'm different. My journey is different. And so I recognize it's not just me. There are others. And unfortunately, most people don't know. I didn't know that there's a different way. So I stayed away from all this business planning. I stayed away from all of this and I focused on my healing because obviously healing is the main journey. It's like a ripple effect. It's going through everything, all parts within you. I had this feeling I need to have Soul Desire, the podcast. I need to have this because it got placed on me and spirit was like, it's calling Soul Desire. I had this in my head and I didn't even know. So I started this podcast and it was a totally different direction. And through this podcast, I grew. And when I reached this point to actually get out of there, speak my truth, speak my vulnerable story, and I had really hard time with this in the beginning, I recognized that this is my journey, this is my purpose. And so my purpose is to help others to do their business, to change their life, to find their partner in a divine feminine way. And ultimately get deep into their empress mode and their empress energy, because I feel like this is the deepest connection you can have with the divine feminine energy, with self-love, self-worth, with who you are. And it's a soul connection, basically. It combines everything. And it's not really just women, it's everybody. It's gender neutral. It's if you either resonate more deeply with the masculine energy or the feminine. And it's for the ones who are resonating with the feminine energy. And this is why I started this podcast, basically. This is my journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's interesting because you touched on a couple things I want to kind of hit on, like the survival mode and, burnout. And I think they're interchangeable. And I think a lot of times we don't realize how interchangeable they are. But if you think about like survival mode, you're in a fear-based mode. You're operating from fear. And so whether it's fear of losing your job, fear of not getting a sale, not making, payments, like whatever it is, right? So you're working more and more and more and more and more. And I find that, so many people live in that state. They live in that burnout state for so long. I was one of them. I lived in that state. And I didn't even realize I was operating in survival mode because I had been that was my operating system for so many years, and so I think like now I can recognize it on clients immediately, like, or even people that, I come into contact with, whether it's on the podcast or just on calls, like I can recognize that energy. And I think it is an energy and kind of shifting that energy and mindset, going from survival to more of a thriving mode, or more present and allowing things, some people call it divine feminine, like you and I, but really it's like living a lot more presently and allowing things to come to you as opposed to force functioning, which is what we do. We're constantly like forcing a sale, forcing this, forcing that, planning, doing all this kind of divine masculine things, which, personally, I operate in both, and I operate in both equally. And so I think that has been a gift of mine that has accelerated my, not just my healing, but my businesses, everything. Like it's accelerated things because I found a way to operate in both, not at the same time, but finding that harmony to operate in both. That's what's really truly helped me. But I love that you talk about that because it is really important to point out. And I think when women, especially, we hear people talking about their soft life and soft this, and it's like this huge thing on social media, but really when you're operating in the divine feminine energy, you're calling things to you because you're energetically aligned to those things. And so that goes for your business too. When you're energetically aligned, things come to you. Like I'll give you an example just for the audience to put a little color on it. Like with my podcasts, right? Like I actually put up a post and I just said, looking for this, for this podcast, and, you know, people who are interested in, this, like respond to me. It's very like a simple thread post I think I put up. And I got like within 24 hours, 130 people responding to that post. And when you're energetically aligned, you call things to you without forcing it. So you think about people like creating content, like all this content, like every single day, forcing a sale, forcing people to see. And it's like, you don't have to do that when you're operating in your divine feminine energy. Like things flow to you. And so, like,
Yeah.
I love that you called that out, as well as the masculine, and I think a lot of times women, especially, have been forced to operate in their divine masculine energy because that is what business calls for. Like, when we go into the room, like, it's, in order to have a voice at the table, you almost have to operate like that in order to be heard. And
Yeah.
so like I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either, but I think understanding when you're in those particular energies and then how to get back to is very important.
Yes, and that's so true. You said something which is beautiful. Obviously, we have both energies within us. When we set a boundary as a woman, this is our divine masculine energy. Basically, the divine masculine is the container who holds the divine feminine energy safe. And you operate on both, which is beautiful because you found a way how to use both for the same job. And we can do this, but it depends on how much you lean to which side. And I feel like this is important to know. When you know how you function, how your energies resonate most in the best way, then you're successful in either way. And this is something people think, like most women think, I need to be in my masculine energy because otherwise I can't be successful. This is not true. You can have success. You can have fulfilling success for you when you're in your divine feminine energy. The only way to feel fulfilled and really love what you do without burnout is when you operate in your divine feminine energy and achieve success. And if when you are in this energy and you're really deeply rooted in it, then success is inevitably abundance, love, everything will come towards you. It's not just business. We are focusing right now on business, but I hear women say, I'm not finding my soulmate, and there are just weird people out there. And it's weirdly enough, it's always them. And this is something, yes, it's you are not in your energy and you are attracting the wrong people because you are trying to hustle your way in. You're trying to
Even
force
the
it.
words finding my,
Yes.
like that is already not in the correct energy. And I really do believe that when you are taking care of yourself and vibrating on a frequency that
Mhm.
allows you to, vibrate at your highest self, like that is when you start attracting that energy as well, and it you don't even have to go looking for it. Like it will literally come find you, and that's the beauty. Like you'll have these moments. Of course, I'm not saying like you can just sit at home and they're going to come knocking on your door, but you have to operate everywhere, every space that you go into. That's how you attract that, like, and I think about this in all areas of my life. That includes like, if you're using the wheel of life, that includes like your relationships, your family, your friends, your money relationship, your work, as well as your intimate partnerships. Like when you're vibrating on that frequency, you know, I really do believe that things that are not aligned just naturally vibrate out.
Yeah, it's true. But you know what? I think it's for everybody who isn't spiritual, it's best, I think, described that it's working because you're your most authentic self.
Yeah.
You just are. And that's it. You don't force, you don't hustle, you don't try, you just are.
Yeah. You're just being. And that's
Yes.
the best place to be, and I think we're not taught that. We show up at work, in different spaces as different people. Like, I have a colleague that I remember. She was so different. Like I would watch her in different situations and she would be completely different in all of those situations. And the only thing that I could think of is I'm like, she is so far away from herself. Like when you are yourself, you operate in the same energy like wherever you go, because really wherever you show up, there you are. So you
Yeah.
get to choose, like whether you're showing up as you or you're showing up as a character or a particular, um, I would say like a section of you, like where maybe it's a part of you a little bit, but then like you're wearing the facade, a lot of times I find that it's so easy for people to put on masks and operate like that because that's what we've been taught to do. Like push your feelings down, push yourself down, and then show up, and it's not authentic. And I think that's where the war inside happens. That's where the
Yeah.
betrayals happen, like all of the betrayals that we experience, that's where it happens. So
Yes, because you're back in survival mode. You're
yes.
back in your unauthentic self, and you're back to this feeling of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. While I feel like you said something, we all have flavors to us.
Yeah.
That's true. We are all our authentic self, but obviously we are different flavors with each person. But you can really tell if somebody is living in their unauthentic self because then they really wear a mask. They're like a robot and they form the way they think you would like that.
It's like dating, right? Dating is that way. Like when people go on dates, it's like they're showing up partly as themselves, right? But then they're putting on a particular flavor that they think that person wants,
Yes.
to taste. And that's in my opinion, the worst thing you can do, because eventually your flavors will merge together and show up as the real taste. And they might
Yeah.
not like the taste, like once that finally shows up. So why not just start with you? And I think, and I see that so often, where people, whether it's the guy trying to overly impress the girl on the date and do all of these extravagant things that they can't maintain. It's not even who they are authentically, and same with the
Yeah.
woman. They're showing up in a way where they think this is maybe what he wants to see, as opposed to starting with them. And then allowing that person to decide if they want to move forward with you. I think that's such a gift, because then you're not, surrounding yourself with the wrong energies. Because I think when you can't show up as you, like it's such a disservice, not just to yourself, but anyone that you serve.
Oh, yeah, so true, especially to really play this facade. They need to have somebody on the other side of the table who's not healed because they will look through this right away. You might not say, like, this person is playing me, but you have this gut feeling and you know something is off. So you don't want this person in your life either way. While when you play this facade, when you pretend to be somebody else, what's the root behind this? It's that you really think that you're not good enough. You
Exactly.
feel like I'm not worthy of love. I'm not good enough. I will never be attracting this person. She's or he's better than me. And this is not a strong foundation to build a relationship on. And then, like you said, the date is the first situation. I feel like the date you have is telling you how the rest of your relationship will be, because it's just a tiny flavor, but still people are the way they are, and
Absolutely.
it's always coming through. So if you're inauthentic there, you will be all over your relationship. You won't be able to tell you or to tell your partner what you like, what you don't like, your needs are, because you feel like I can't be myself.
It's so true. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
I see everything as like operating systems. It's like, do our operating systems match, or are you a Mac and I'm a Microsoft? It's like it's we're not gonna gel together, like. And I think
Mhm.
when you show up as you, like, you allow people to make those decisions. So one thing I wanted to talk about is your podcast, and what has that journey been like for you? Like, you touched on it a little bit, but like I wanted to, for people who might want to start a podcast or think like, hey, Rebecca healed in this way, like it might be good for me too. Because one thing that I notice, and I want to know if it's a similar thing for you, is when you have given permission to lose your voice in relationships, right? It takes you a minute to get your voice back. And that only comes through practice. And so I could even hear myself, like in the earlier episodes where I would like pause, but I was so aware of it that I would work through it, but it took me a minute to be able to flow because I had given my power away, whether it was in a relationship or, in a work setting, where I might have had a seat at the table, but I did not have a voice at the table. And instead
Yes.
of me getting up and leaving right in the moment, I stayed. And that's a betrayal of yourself. And so I'm so curious, like, with your podcast, what was that like for you, just being able to use your voice and heal your voice?
Wow, I had a similar situation. And it was always, no matter if the business was mine, my ex-spouse pushed himself in there. He was not even the main person, but people thought he was the business owner because he presented him like this. So I was at the table, nobody talked to me. And so I was okay with this because I thought this is my place. And in my family, my parents had this saying, when grown-ups talk, kids have to shut up. It's like when yes, it's something people teach their children. It's a limiting belief. And it was so ingrained within me. And so I was okay with losing my voice. And I never thought this would be a big deal for me. But here's the thing, I think we have all soul contracts, and this is part of mine. It was to regain my power back, to regain my voice back. And when I started this podcast, like I said earlier, it wasn't that I wanted to do this, it was something more like a nudge. It felt like I have to. And so I had this fantasy about a podcast, how amazing it could be. And so I think throughout this moment, I watched Only Murders in the Building, and they had this beautiful podcast. And I was like, oh, podcast, I want to do this. And it felt so aligned. And then I did this and I hit the wall. And I was like, how can this be? How can this be? It's supposed to be right for me. And now I'm hitting a wall. This is not how alignment should be. I read it's going to be ease and grace and flow, and it's not. So I was like, well, now I started and I'm really resilient in this. And my ego kicked in. I was like, I can't let this go. So I need to push my way through. And I remember the first episodes were so dreadful. And I hope nobody had to listen to them because they're so dreadful. But I kept them still up because I feel like they're part of my journey. And if they teach somebody that it's sometimes hard to speak your truth and you have to push through, then it's okay that I feel ashamed for them. So I recognized that it was so dreadful for me. So I started with episodes with guests. And weirdly enough, it felt comfortable because I felt like the pressure was on them. They had to talk, and I was just there, which was basically the seat at the table. Nobody looked at me, nobody cared about me. I was just there. And it weirdly gave me this familiar feeling. And I moved through this for quite a while, and I was in this transitioning phase because I didn't really fully know what my purpose was. I was all over the place. I didn't even recognize that I was in survival mode back then. So one day I just got this click and I recognized, wow, I'm in survival mode. I felt really drained by having guest episodes because it felt not aligned anymore. And I decided, do I stop my podcast? And something within me was like, no, I can't. There's still more. And I got back into solo episodes and I decided, okay, you know what? My throat chakra is so blocked. Right now, I have nothing to lose. I'm just speaking the unspeakable. I share something I've never shared before with anybody on earth. So I'm just doing this. And was really hard for me. I uploaded the episode a couple of days earlier and I said, okay, it's going to air at midnight. And it was American midnight. So for me, I was in the middle of the night. I made sure that I couldn't stop it because I just slept through. And the next day I thought maybe I should just not advertise for it. So I realized that I'm sabotaging myself. So I just did everything I planned and I just advertised for it. And this actually set something free within me. It wasn't that I knew by then my entire mission. I didn't know my purpose really, but I knew that I needed to speak my truth. And from this point on, my throat chakra opened. With every episode I uploaded, it got more open. I felt more confident in myself. I felt more authentic within me. I felt like I can't hide anymore. It's like everybody had this dream, probably waking up and being in business or in school naked. This is how it felt for me. I felt like I was just in front of everybody naked. And I felt like there was nothing to hide.
Yeah. Well, even beyond like feeling that naked feeling, right? It's like a lot of times we're our own worst judge,
Yes.
our own worst critic, and we think we're so afraid of other people's perception of us. And so that's why a lot of times we don't do. But if you think about, like, I love that you talked about your journey, and just allowing yourself to have that moment where your throat chakra was opening over time. I think that is the same for so many things that we do, like allowing yourself to start green. Like, I think about so many people who have great ideas or great businesses, or maybe even great ideas to say in the meeting room, at work, but they don't, because they're so afraid of what someone else might say, or the judgment, or maybe not being able to carry it out. So then they self-sabotage, and that's when imposter syndrome kind of pops up. And so I love that you talked about just allowing yourself to go through that journey, because that's really what it felt like for me. It's like my throat chakra kept opening as I kept doing, and as I kept, allowing myself to be seen, allowing myself to fumble over words and, say, and all that, like you just learn over time. And so I think it's so I'm glad that you touched on that, because, I think I can see that being very helpful to the audience. Maybe they're not thinking about a podcast, but maybe it's something else, that they're just afraid to do. But allow yourself to be green at something. That's also where healing comes in, because if you think about like that process, it's like a peeling back of yourself and allowing yourself to shine through and show yourself what you can do, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that. Talk to me a little bit about your teachings, because you emphasize kind of shifting from, that fear to alignment, and then kind of allowing your soul to lead, to build more trust. Like, how can leaders, especially women who you work with, begin to kind of redefine their success on their terms? And how did that work for you?
I feel like once recognize that you're not in your natural energy, this is the starting point. Really recognize you're not in your natural energy. You may be in your masculine energy, or maybe you're in a borrowed energy, or even worse, in survival mode. Because, like we said earlier, survival mode is really subtle and you don't see it once you're in there. It's really taking training to recognize now I'm in a survival mode. And it's not a big deal because we're all in this energy from time to time. But you need to recognize this so you can shift back. And there are so many little things you can do. It's daily practices. It's like with everything. Healing is not like a one time fix and you're done, you're healed. I would even go so far and say I will never be healed from survival mode. And it's okay because it used to be my home for so many years that it feels really familiar. But now I found a new home and I get to decide. And that's the beautiful thing. When you shift back, you get to decide. You can make a conscious shift. It's not an unconscious thing, which just takes your subconscious and decides for you. You can decide now. It's your active choice. And that's the beautiful thing. So I usually speak about small, tiny fragments of things you can do, like breath work. Breath is the energy which keeps your body alive and it's moving your energy, your emotions. Breath is what takes your emotions on a roller coaster, or it can even calm it. So we all had this when we are really, really anxious. Our breath is shallow and really fast. So when you really start to slow your breath down and cautiously breathe, your nerves will calm down. And by doing this, your divine energy will start to rise because now you gave this energy a entrance to start connecting to your emotions. And you feel yourself again, all this anxious, nervous feeling, you released it. I like to do this that you imagine a light going in with every breath, and it's a golden light and it's touching your entire body. It's moving through and it's taking all the anxiety out with the exhale. You can also just split things like being in the present. When you're in survival mode, you're not in the present. You keep your eyes shut and you're walking through life in your mind. You're like, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to grab this, and I need to go here. And your mind is running a million thoughts a second. When you come back, because your natural energy will never have these feelings. You will be calm and you feel really present when you're in your natural energy. So what you can do is when you feel like your mind is running, focus on something, either your breath or really experience the outside. When you're going to your car, this is something really normal for a lot of people. It's a normal kind of task in their day. They rush out and they dropped off their children and they run to their car because now they have to go grocery shopping and then get something for the husband. And no, really, while you rush over, slow down. Don't break your neck on the way to the car, and just feel the air, feel the sun. And if it's really cold and rainy, feel the rain. It's something which brings you right in the present. So when you're just hustling through your present, how is your future supposed to be? So I feel like be present as much as you can. Eat something and really taste it. Don't shove it down and rush because it's break and you haven't eaten anything. Really do it cautiously. And even if it's just one bite, it doesn't matter. Make it a conscious choice and taste it, truly taste it. This is bringing you back in this moment right away. And these are the tiny magic moments. where you listen to the song in the car and you just really listen. And maybe you sing along because this is your divine energy and she loves to be creative. Maybe while being in a phone call and having a client on the call, you can doodle. It's fine. But really listen to yourself. And this is something which is really important. Connect with your intuition. Because when you're in survival, you don't connect to anything.
No, and I think that's a really great takeaway is just having that connection with yourself and then giving yourself permission to live presently, whatever that looks like for you. And one day it could be dancing, doodling, whatever. And then the next day it could be something completely different. Maybe it's just rest. But I think when you're in that divine feminine energy, you are living very presently. And it's something that I talk about often on the show. Like whether you're living in the past or you're worried about the future, that is very fear-based. And when you are more present, it's in such a loving state. That's where you not just can love other people, but also yourself. And that's
Yeah.
the key. So being present is really about love, giving love to yourself, giving yourself permission, but also then allowing yourself to show up for others in a loving state. Think about when, I don't think you have children yet, but like, I have children. So it's like, I want to show up lovingly to my children. If I'm like operating in this fear state, like I'm worried about the future or I'm ruminating about the past, like I'm not being present with them, and children are so present. So that's who I want to show up for. I want to show up in a present, loving state. But I first have to give love to myself. And so how do you do that? You slow down, you take in those moments, you practice mindfulness, whether it's mindful eating, mindful walks, or just walking to your car and standing there. And so something that I like to implement, in my own practice is the pause.
Yes.
So
Oh my
before
gosh.
you do certain things, like even before I open my door, I'll pause. And
I
then
love it.
I'll open my door. Then I'll get in my car before I start it, all the way. Like I'm like, pause. Like, so I implement these pauses, and that has been and it's such a small thing that we all have access to. I love that you talked about very simple things that we all have access to, our breath work, being more present, like pausing, so I love that. So thank you for that. But what's next for you? Like, I love this conversation, and, I know we're running up against time, but, for people who find this conversation interesting and, want to work with you, like what's coming up for you?
I'm obviously have the podcast Soul Desire where I weekly share something which is going on within my own life or which I feel like was a lesson I wanted to share. I do have a couple of summits coming up. I'm going to talk about how to get out of survival mode into your divine feminine energy so you can rise as your inner empress in business, because I feel like this is where we are leading right now. This is what I want people to have a choice to decide how to lead business. There are more things. You don't have to take one fits all kind of style. You can have your own. So I feel like this is what I'm talking about, and it's going to be beautiful. Yes, otherwise you can really connect with me on Instagram and see what I'm up to. I actually stay open to everything. This is the divine feminine energy. I don't feel like I need to hustle, plan or something. Everything will fall towards me in divine timing. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on Blessing Sunday Soul Day. I love this soul-filled conversation, and I hope you all did too.
Thank you so much.
And everyone, as always, have an amazing Sunday. And do us a favor, leave your favorite part about this conversation in the comments below, or maybe something new that you learned. Bye.